Did you know that more than half of the Tor browser funding comes from the US government? In the fiscal year 2021-2022, they received more than $3 million, whereas individual donations only accounted to 28 of the revenue percent, 28%. Similarly, just a few months ago, F-Droid announced that it had won a grant of slightly less than $400,000, also paid by the US government. As they explained, this would allow them to refactor and integrate code with other maintained projects, establish clear policies and legal strategies, and improve our localization workflows, and so on. Of course, we're not currently in the best time to rely on the US government funds. We've recently covered how the dismantling of the USAID agency directly affected Mozilla selected projects to bring open internet awareness to other countries, and the funding that I mentioned above is now at risk as well. So let's start from the beginning. On March 14th, a presidential action was published that ordered the elimination to the maximum extent consistent with applicable law of 7 governmental entities, including the United States Agency for Global Media, or USAGM. As a direct result, the USAGM senior advisor, Carrie Lake, a Republican politician who endorsed the current US president, has vowed to fully implement President Trump's executive order and claimed that USAGM was not salvageable and it is a giant threat and a burden to the American taxpayer. You might be guessing where this is headed. USAGM funds various external entities, from Voice of America, a news source with a weekly international audience of 361 million people, to Radio Free Asia, a domestic news corporation in 6 Asian countries, and of particular interest to us, also the Open Technology Fund. The OTF is an independent non-profit organization that, according to them, aims to advance global internet freedom. We support projects focused on contracting repressive censorship and surveillance, enabling citizens worldwide to exercise their fundamental human rights online. Going through the list of supported projects, there's a clear pattern. We have OONI anonymous credentials, projects to measure internet censorship in foreign states, projects to make it easier to document human rights violations, supporting exiled and underground media organizations, and so on. This includes multiple open source projects, even notable ones. We've already mentioned the Tor browser, and I hope I don't have to explain why it's a big deal for internet privacy. But there's also Let's Encrypt, providing secure certificates, and Tails, a portable Linux distribution that runs from a USB stick. Finally, I've also mentioned F-Droid, which is an application store of free and open source applications that assumes a particularly important role in countries where built-in application stores might be particularly government controlled. Let's put numbers on all of this. The OTF's total budget slowly raised from 10 million in 2019 to a grand total of 40 million in 2023, almost half of all allocated funds by Congress to promote internet freedom globally. F-Droid received around $400,000. Let's Encrypt received $800,000 exactly, and the Tor project received just shy of that over 2 years. Though these numbers are certainly a significant help for open source projects, which sometimes struggle to find funding, I would also like to argue that they're extremely small in the context of the US budget, which is in the order of magnitude of trillions per year, and yet it has a very high return on investment, making sure that the core internet privacy infrastructure gets actually developed nicely. More recently, Congress had directed that for both the fiscal years of 2024 and 2025, the funding should be not less than $43 million and a half, which guaranteed an income stream for 2025 too. However, on March 15th, the OTF received a letter from the above-mentioned Lake, where she said that the award no longer effectuated agency priorities and would thus terminate all grants funding. The OTF has decided to fight against this by opening a lawsuit. Well, according to them, the Congress directives do not allow for the USAGM to arbitrarily stop funds like that. According to them, the termination of its grant, the mechanism by which OTF receives its congressionally appropriated funds, is unlawful. The OTF was not the only one here. The other entities that were funded by USAGM, including Radio Free Asia, RFE, RL, and Lake and Victor Morales, the USAGM acting CEOs, all decided to sue USAGM to prevent the grants from being withheld. And to fight that, USAGM disbursed $7.5 million to those entities in, and I quote, what seemed to be an effort to delay the hearings or woo the judge. Regardless, the latter has sided against USAGM, and just a few days ago, the agency has decided to back off and release the funds for the 2025 fiscal year. And even though it's great that the OTF survived the attempt of being shut down, this doesn't really leave me. This does leave me worried for its future. Congress is now under Republican control, and they must approve funds every year. Will they do that next year? And if not, well, bad luck. Tor project, Let's Encrypt, Tails, F-Droid, just you figure it out. You don't need actual money.